In your book, Not Just a Pretty Face, what did you mean by beauty mythbusters?
So Beauty Mythbusters, I have a chapter talking about how intense the beauty industry is on all of us with its marketing to make us feel like we're not good enough. And I had that experience as a white woman growing up, looking at the CoverGirl ads and feeling like I needed to look like Christy Brinkley with the perfect blonde hair and the perfect features, and she still looks that way, God love her. And I interviewed an African American woman who talks about what it was like in that community, the extreme pressure, more pressure to look, to conform to a certain look, to have straight hair, to use fragrances and all sorts of products. And that community uses across the board many more products of all types. And that's a reason why some researchers believe that we're seeing the very aggressive breast cancers in African Americans. I mentioned that hair study from the NIH where they found higher rates of cancer in permanent hair dye users, but it was much higher in African American women. And from other research I've seen, that could be because of the synergies among the many products they're using. A lot of the hair products, for example, have very estrogenic chemicals or even placenta. I've seen in some hair products. And so those exposures from an early age, starting in the womb through all of life, could be a reason why that's happening. And there's not a ton of research into that, but there has been much more in recent years. I also interviewed an Asian woman who talked about how, from the Philippines, who talked about how every other commercial on TV was having a skin lightening. Every single product had a skin lightening effect. Every single major actress was Caucasian looking. And these are the kinds of images that get pounded into women from the time we can see and walk and breathe, that we need to look a certain way, that we need to be in competition with each other. And so this is part of the propaganda we need to learn to see through. I think it's a crucial part of health and healing. And I'll be talking later this afternoon about how companies roll out their propaganda. And my work now is on the pesticide industry. And so I'll just say about that, I mean, the incredible efforts, resources, money they're putting into controlling the debate at every level. What kids hear in universities, what professors are saying in public, what happens at conferences, what's coming from mainstream media. I mean, there's just an incredible level of corporate control, influence, and manipulation going on all levels of our society. Facebook, online stuff now. It's really ratcheted up in intensity to quite a stunning level. And learning to see through that is crucial. And teaching kids digital media literacy is crucial. And teaching ourselves how to deprogram from what corporations are telling us we need to do, we need to have, and the way things need to be is a big part of how we need to reclaim our future and our health.
Another chapter in your book, Not Just a Pretty Face, talks about pink washing. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So pink washing. Well, greenwashing, we know what that is when a company tries to make you think that its product is eco-friendly when it's not, or whitewashing, where they try to make you see what's not really there. So pink washing is the act of companies pretending they care about breast cancer by sticking a pink ribbon on their product and yet using carcinogens without any transparency or care. And that's a big problem in the beauty industry. They love to put pink ribbons on their products and tell us that we need to be aware of breast cancer and that we need to get our mammograms and do early detection. Okay, that's important, but we also need to be having a big conversation about prevention. How do we prevent breast cancer in the first place? If the beauty industry was really serious about preventing breast cancer, caring about breast cancer, they would seriously be paying attention to that NIH study and what can they do to address this major concern that hair dye is linked to higher rates of breast cancer. What can they do? But that's not a conversation that they've wanted to have. And I tell this story in my book. I was not the first to tell this, it's out there, but the genesis of the pink ribbon, it used to be a peach ribbon, and it was it was created by a woman that wanted to do political advocacy for breast cancer prevention because her daughter had breast cancer, her sister, her mother. And so it was an advocacy political tool. Then it was co-opted by Estee Lauder and Self magazine, who turned it into a cute little pink ribbon so we could have a not real conversation about breast cancer and use it to sell products and keep doing business as usual.
Tell us about the time you went undercover to a beauty industry conference, as you describe in the book, and what did you discover?
So yeah, I have some chapters in the book that talk about tricks of the trade, how the beauty industry maneuvers at all levels. As I was saying, the pesticide industry does much better, by the way. Much more sophisticated sort of propaganda efforts. But the beauty industry's been at it too for a long time. And they got really worried about the campaign for safe cosmetics. And so every year they have a big conference in New York, Health and Beauty Association, I think HBA. So I went to that undercover. I didn't use my real name at the time. I went under my mom's name, and I went to this all-day panel at HBA to hear how the beauty industry planned to address the work of the campaign for safe cosmetics. And basically, they were worried about being regulated. What might happen if the government decided to regulate them, and how could they get out of that? So I go to this full day at HBA, and it's funny because it's such a glitzy, glamorous, sort of in a way. There were rooms of packaging, glittering like on thrones or whatever, under beautiful lights. There's a lot of innovation in packaging in the beauty industry, not so much in ingredients. So I was expecting maybe a little glitz and glamour, but instead we're in a basement room with fluorescent lights, with a bunch of bald guys, essentially. I mean, they were overrepresented, let's put them that way. Talking about how they were going to deal with us, these activists who were trying to get carcinogens out of cosmetics. Oh my goodness. So they talked about, Gerald McEwen was there, former FDA guy. That's where he was bragging about getting rid of that provision when companies had to report to FDA when people had adverse health effects. And at one point he was saying, we all know when the phone starts ringing hundreds of times, thousands of times, my eyes are burning. My skin is, I mean, it's not funny, but it's all, when companies do change a product, people can have serious reactions, and they do hear about it. It's one of the reasons why they're very resistant to change. Okay, it's working, we're not getting the calls, or the people who've learned not to use it stop using it. You know, they learn the hard way. Anyway, I was sort of seeing the underlying messages that maybe they weren't trying to communicate. For example, there was a toxicologist there who was really laid it out. Like, you've got some toxic chemicals in cosmetics that are really concerning, and you might want to move those out. And they got into an argument actually about skin lightening creams, where the company folks were saying, you know, well, if we got rid of that chemical, hydroquinone, the product category would have to go away. And he was getting so mad, this toxicologist. He was like, it's arrogant to use that to put that chemical in products people are putting on their face. Okay, message not received by companies that are thinking product category going away. Oh no, we can't have that. We're making money off it. Somebody's making money off it. So, you know, challenging this idea that once somebody's making money, that's right to make money trumps the right to health, to people, to the environment, to our future, is certainly something we have to challenge in this country. So the conference was fun, and that chapter in my book is fun, and yeah, they were not really understanding, who are these activists? They're making money. They must be making money off of this. Not really, but yeah, it was fun to see, and they have since come around to, as I said, realizing they need to be regulating these products at least somewhat.